1. When I told him the truth, sort of. He couldn't understand the words. He was just a baby, eyes wide, mouth barely able to hold a bottle, but I told him anyway, that I kill people, only the bad ones, and that I wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't a confession, or a breakdown, it was a promise, and I meant it. I had never said anything like that to another person before, because I'd never wanted to stay, but with Harrison in my arms, something shifted. I didn't want to disappear. I wanted him to know I'd always protect him, even if that meant lying to both of us. That moment wasn't about the code or having a cover. It was about claiming him as mine, and admitting I wanted to be his father.
Want to know a secret? Daddy kills people.
2. When he got his shots. It was a simple moment, a routine pediatric visit. Harrison got his vaccinations, cried for a second and stopped. But I didn't, not inside. I felt something twist in me, something unfamiliar. I've seen bodies torn open, I've caused it, but watching a needle prick my son's leg left me more shaken than anything I'd done in a kill room. That night, I kissed his leg and promised no one will ever hurt him again, especially me. It was a promise I had no way of keeping, but meant anyway. For the first time, someone else's pain felt like mine. That's not how monsters are supposed to work. 3. Born in blood. When Harrison was born, I felt nothing. Not joy. Not awe. I remember standing there in the hospital room looking at this tiny, helpless human that was supposedly mine and thinking, is this it? That's how broken I was. Later, after Trinity killed Rita, I found Harrison crying in a pool of her blood. He had witnessed his mother's death, just like I had. The scene was a mirror to my childhood. Instant flashback. And something in that moment pierced the numbness. Not for Rita, but for Harrison. For the first time I felt afraid. Not afraid of being caught. Afraid of what he might become. Afraid of what I'd already passed on. Afraid that he might end up being like me. And for the first time in my life, I was scared, because I cared. 4. When he laughed in my arms. It was sometime after Rita's funeral. I was holding Harrison and I made a face. A stupid, exaggerated face, something I saw other fathers do. Then Harrison laughed, a full, delighted laugh. It hit me like a syringe to the chest, jarring and unexpected. I wasn't trying to bond, I was just playing the role. But in that moment I wasn't pretending. I smiled back, not the kind of smile that I used to get through the day, but a real, genuine smile. And it terrified me, because I realized that something inside me wanted to keep hearing that laugh. And I wanted to be the one responsible for it. 5. Teaching him to walk at the beach, sand, sea, and a toddler wobbling on unsure legs. I stood a few feet away, arms out, watching him stumble toward me. When he finally made it, I clapped. It wasn't because someone was watching, or because it made sense. I didn't do it for anyone else. I did it because I was proud, not fake proud, not for cover proud. The real thing. It wasn't about looking like a good father. It was about actually being one. And for a brief second, I wasn't a monster hiding in daylight. I was just a regular dad at the beach, and I wanted to stay there. 6. Harrison's bedtime ritual. After Rita's murder, most of my life became noise. Pointless conversations. Hollow routines. A blur of grief I didn't fully understand. But there was one moment each night that cut through all of it. Harrison's bedtime ritual. Just me, a towel, warm water with bubbles, pajamas, the smell of soap on his skin, and this small creature who trusted me without question. I found myself looking forward to it. Didn't matter if I was at work or on a kill. I made it home in time. The way he'd splash in the tub, grip my finger, and melt into my chest after. It was the most human part of my day. It wasn't about pretending to be normal. There was no one to perform for. It was about being there and actually wanting to be. 7. Editing out the monsters. I used to tell Harrison stories at night, hero daddy on his boat, slaying the monsters. But then he said,
Daddy's box.
Daddy's box. He must have saw me put away my slides. That word, Daddy's, tied his innocence to my darkness. I realized then that even though he was small, he was watching, learning, absorbing. From that point on, I started leaving the monsters out. I could no longer allow him to see the real me, only the version that was make-believe. It was the only way to give his story a happy ending. because monsters don't get to live happily ever after. 8. When his appendix burst. When I arrived at the hospital, Harrison's temperature was already 104. The doctor told me his appendix had ruptured, and they needed to operate immediately. I've handled corpses cooler than I was in that moment. Brother Sam showed up, offering support. Talked about surrender, not to the situation, to God, which to me sounded like delusion. But the longer Harrison was in that room, cut off from me, behind sterile glass and closed doors, the less sure I became. I walked to the coffee machine and whispered something I've never said before. Please let him live. I'll do anything you ask. It wasn't a spell. It wasn't strategy. It was a prayer, and that scared me more than the surgery. 9. When Travis took him, Travis Marshall had Harrison in his arms, on a rooftop, ready to kill him, to fulfill some twisted prophecy. And I was almost too late. I wasn't thinking about evidence, exposure, or the code. All I could see was Harrison's face, silent, trusting, seconds from being taken from me forever. I've dealt with killers before. I've set traps, stayed 3 steps ahead. But this wasn't that. This was panic. I begged. I offered myself instead.
Take me and let my son go.
I told Travis to take me, kill me, let my son go. That wasn't a strategy. That was instinct. I didn't care about control. I just wanted my son safe. And I meant it. Every word. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just willing to kill for someone. I was willing to die for him. 10. Letting Hannah take him. I told myself sending Harrison to Argentina with Hannah was strategy, a way to protect him. But the truth was, I didn't trust myself anymore. Deb was dead. Innocents were dying. The code was unraveling. And I knew, deep down, that love alone wouldn't keep Harrison safe from what I was. I could feel my darkness trying to shape him, even back then. So I let him go because I loved him enough to stay away. I told myself it was the right move, like sacrificing the king to save the board. The pain that followed wasn't tactical, it was grief, and that meant something I wasn't ready to admit. I was human enough to feel it. 11. When he found me in Iron Lake, 10 years of silence, pretending to be Jim Lindsay, the man with clean hands and an empty past. Then Harrison showed up and everything I'd buried came clawing back. He wasn't a child anymore. He was tall, angry, wounded in all the ways I recognized so well. I expected questions, maybe even blame, but what I didn't expect was hope. He wanted something from me, answers, a connection, maybe even love, and I wanted to give it to him. I made him breakfast, helped with his homework, watched his wrestling matches, not because I had to, because I wanted to. Somewhere in the part of me that was still salvageable, I thought maybe I could be a father, and that, the wanting part, was scarier than any kill room I've ever built. 12. When he confided about his own darkness, Harrison sat across from me, barely holding it together, and told me the thing I'd always feared. He felt something dark inside him, something violent, something wrong, and he'd acted on it. My first instinct should have been distance, containment, but instead I leaned in. For once I wasn't alone in the way I saw the world. I didn't see a threat, I saw a reflection. I wanted to help him, not suppress it, not deny it, but understand it. That wasn't about control, that was connection. And connection isn't something monsters crave. 13. When I considered turning myself in, I never planned on surrendering. Not to the law, not to judgment, not to anything outside the code. But when Harrison looked at me, really looked at me, after I crossed a line that I swore I never would, something cracked. I didn't feel guilt the way normal people do, but I felt the weight of his disappointment. I saw what I had become in his eyes, and it wasn't something I could explain away. For a moment I thought about ending it, turning myself in, letting the world see what I truly was, giving him the clean break he deserved. I didn't follow through, of course, but the fact that I even considered it, that wasn't the dark passenger, that was something else, a human still capable of change. 14. When I tried to quit killing again, I've gone cold before, strategic pauses, but this time it wasn't about hiding, it was about Harrison. I held back, not because I didn't want to kill, but because I didn't want him to see me that way. I chose school events over stalking, dinner over dismemberment. Each day, harder than the last, not survival, not the code, love. and that made every day of restraint feel heavier, because it wasn't about me anymore, it was about who I wanted to be for him. 15. When I gave him my old razor, that blade haunted me. It was the first object tied to my darkness, small, cold, and deceptively simple. I kept it hidden like a relic, until I handed it to Harrison, not as a weapon, but as a symbol, a piece of my history, offered without explanation. It was dangerous, irresponsible, but it was also intimate, honest. I had never shared that part of myself with anyone, not fully. Giving it to him wasn't about preparing him. It was about trusting him, and I don't trust easily, especially not with the worst of me.
Harry gave me the code as a way to channel the Dark Passenger. To use it for good.
16. When I let him watch me kill and rebranded it as justice. When I killed Kurt Caldwell in front of Harrison, it was raw, unfiltered. No gloves, no lies. I expected disgust, fear. But instead he asked why. I explained calmly that this wasn't about impulses. It was about protecting others. Justice. That word mattered. I wanted him to see me as someone operating under a moral code, not as a monster. I needed him to believe that even when I kill, I do it for a reason. That was a dangerous lie, and an emotional one. It meant I cared what he thought. I wasn't lying for him. I needed to be something he could still love. So I painted myself as righteous, and in doing so I proved just how deeply I wanted his approval. 17. When I let him pull the trigger, he knew. He saw the blood. He saw through the lies. And when he asked if it was true, if I had killed Logan, an innocent who didn't deserve it, I didn't deny it. I couldn't. He asked me to turn myself in, to finally take responsibility. But I chose escape. Told him he didn't have to come with me, but I couldn't stay. He saw it for what it was. Abandonment. Again. And this time he stopped me. When he raised the rifle, there wasn't hate in his eyes. There was pain, loss, truth. He asked me if the people he loved would still be alive if it weren't for me. I had no answer. Only ghosts that flashed before my eyes. All I could do was apologize. I told him he deserved a better life, and a better father. I reminded him to turn off the safety, and told him where to aim. And when he pulled the trigger, I felt love and peace, hoping that my end might save him. 18. When I found Harrison, again, after everything that happened, the shooting, the coma, the silence. By the time I was moving steady enough, Harrison was gone. I saw a news report of a body found in trash bags cut into 9 pieces in New York City. I followed the lead. Harrison was the only one I'd ever taught how I cut up bodies. When I found him, he was older, hollowed, haunted by a murder of his own. He'd killed Ryan Foster after trying to stop an assault on a woman who had been drugged. It wasn't precision, it wasn't strategy, it was rage and grief. And it was just. He'd covered his tracks the way I taught him, but not with the precision or detachment. I didn't kill him. I didn't scold. I cleaned what he missed, erased the evidence. Because he was my son, and however much we resisted, our darkness had always tied us together. That day, for the first time since the shooting, I felt like a father, not just a survivor. Everyone always talks about my kills, the 154 monsters I put down, but what no one ever counts are the lives I saved by doing what I do. Every kill room I built meant someone else got to wake up tomorrow. A child not taken, a funeral not held, a family not shattered. If you're ready to look past the blood and into the lives that went on living because of me, then it's time you watch the next video. Every life saved by my 154 kills, explained by Dexter.